Hi, my name is Chloe Trowman, and today for my service learning project, I will be presenting on the strategy that I think that works best for me, which is concept mapping. So, for some background, I'm a poli-sci major, so I think that concept mapping is very helpful in classes that are connecting large, broad concepts to small issues that are going on in the world right now. And I'll explain that later in my presentation. But what is concept mapping? So, concept maps are visual diagrams that organize and show relationships between ideas. They also help to see how the information works together. Hi, my name is Chloe Trowman, and today I will be presenting about the Hi, my name is Chloe Trowman, and today I will be presenting on my service learning project about the strategy that I believe works best for me in my major, political science, which is concept mapping. So, what is concept mapping? Concept maps are visual diagrams that organize and show relationships between ideas. They also help to see how the information works together instead of just sole memorization of facts and storing them in your short-term memory. So, this creates a cohesive knowledge structure while also serving as a communication tool for presentations like these or explaining concepts to other students. So, to the right, this is just an image of a vague diagram that you could possibly use for a concept map, and it shows how there's one central idea with several other ideas branching off of it. So, how mapping supports active learning is that it encourages deep learning while forcing a student to interact with the material that they're taking in while identifying key concepts. So, organized knowledge is necessary for effective teaching and learning, which is in active learning, while also aiding creativity in creating new connections. The structure of a concept map includes concepts, which is just labels and words, links, which are the lines that are connecting the concepts to start beginning to create connections. Linking words are the words that are on these links explaining the relationships between different concepts. And then cross links, which are connections between different parts of the map that you wouldn't previously have thought about. And also, concept maps traditionally have a hierarchical structure, starting with one key concept, subtopics, and then examples or other more specific information at the bottom. So here's an example of a hierarchical structure of a concept map with one central idea, three main ideas, and then secondary ideas and examples. So some steps that I normally use to create a concept map is I begin with a research question because most times I'm using concept maps for research, especially if, like I said, I'm a political science major. I use them a lot in my global issues class, which just has to do with like international politics and international affairs. So there's a lot of large, broad concepts that I have to apply to different countries and conflicts. So normally I'll start with one focused research question that I like to think about. I don't normally always write this down on the paper, but then I'm just brainstorming main ideas that have to do with this research question and trying to begin what my key concept is. So then I choose a mapping tool. Traditionally, I just use paper because I'm not much of a tech savvy person. And I just like to use a pencil and just let my ideas flow. So I start with one key concept at the top of the paper, and then I work my way down with links, linking words, and more narrowed concepts. And then once I'm finished with that, I try to start adding cross links and being creative with which concepts I think that could possibly connect to each other. And then as I'm going, I oftentimes reorganize my concept maps and erase some parts, add some parts, because my thinking changes as I'm able to just project it on a piece of paper. So, like I said, I use concept mapping for research a lot, and it helps to clarify my research topic, brainstorming keywords, because oftentimes it's just the subtopics right underneath the main topic, because you can't really search up an entire research question. You need to narrow it down to keywords, and I take these from my concept maps a lot of times. Then it also helps identify information needs, like I said, choosing search terms, and it keeps your research organized, flexible, and evolving. So in this little phrase down here, I have how you start with your research topic, you then move down to subtopics and keywords, and then finally at the bottom, it's details and examples. Then how I've used concept mapping this semester is, like I said in my international affairs class, on the bottom left, I have how I enacted it in about international humanitarian law, how I started with international law and I explained the four examples of international law with different kinds of descriptions and definitions underneath them, and then a cross link between customary and treaty law. And then in the top right, I needed some context for part of the global issues class about religions, and it just demonstrates the different people involved in this religion and kind of like a family tree with different connecting words like Arabs and prophets. So, like I said, I have used concept mapping in my global issues class to reconnect complex and international relations ideas to current conflicts. Some challenges I've faced when creating concept maps is that they're difficult to determine the main concept, and I've had trouble of thinking of effective linking words, and I've had to sit there and be creative with those. I've had to revise my concept map as I worked, while also having to focus on the understanding of the content instead of simply the aesthetic appeal of my concept map. Concept mapping has helped my learning because it's helped me move from memorizing sole facts to understanding relationships between different concepts, while also clarifying my research topics and identifying keywords. It has improved my metacognition because instead of just thinking about my own thinking, I'm now writing it on the paper and able to see my train of thought. It has made lectures and lecture classes more connected and meaningful, while also revealing unexpected links and cross links between different concepts in my classes. Some final takeaways for concept mapping is that it helps make my thinking visible while encouraging higher level, deeper, and creative learning. It is useful for my studying, researching, and long-term understanding, and moving information from my short-term memory to my long-term memory. And finally, it is a powerful generative learning strategy. And to the right, I've provided a final example of how concept map can be applied to a large concept like climate change, where there's subtopics including evidence, causes, and solutions, and different examples and reasons for this issue further down. Thank you, and here are my sources.